A perfectly inclusive world would allow everybody to succeed regardless of their diversity and difference. So I believe the world would adapt around the people rather than forcing the people to adapt around the world.
Have eradicated discrimination.
Accept everyone because of and in spite of their differences, quirks, interests and the rest of it.
Would be brave enough to welcome all voices.
Would learn to accept others and to share love rather than hate.
Only exist in La La Land.
Have no barriers imposed by other people's prejudices and judgments.
Be so much kinder, it would provide opportunities for all and actually we'd all be better off.
Would see beyond the first look.
Be happy.
Not just tolerate difference, but really value difference, really understand that everybody has something to contribute and they can do that in their own way.
Somewhere where everyone is accepted and it's just not an issue at all. Nobody even needs to talk about it.
Be utopian, pretty awesome, but yeah, a challenge to get to maybe.
It's about sense of belonging, I mean, part of something. And if that means that I can be myself, that enables me to be the best I can be.
Be a safe place for everybody, regardless of their background, regardless of their neurology, to show up and thrive for being who they are.
Treating people equally from different backgrounds and demographics and making sure everyone has the same opportunities given to them.
All people, no matter on their race, gender, ethnicity, feel that they are part of a wonderful society.
Would be a world where difference was celebrated and not tolerated, where people could walk into whatever they walk into, whether it be a venue, whether it be a conference, whether it be a workplace or a new house to buy, for example, and feel, okay, this place isn't for me, but not because it doesn't meet my needs, but because I just want something slightly different. Or it does meet my needs and actually I've got lots to choose from and I'm not limited to a certain amount of space because of other people's aptitudes, because of the culture of the neighbourhood, because of the accessibility requirements.
We'd no longer be talking about diversity and inclusion. We wouldn't have diversity and inclusion officers. We wouldn't have consultants, although I know lots of good ones. We would have consultants needing to preach a message because our diversity wouldn't be a consideration.
I knew from a very early age that was different. When I first went to school, I realised I wasn't the same as the other children. The teachers started correcting my behaviour. As I grew up, I realised the things and the way I did things were not the same as all the others. Then my mum started correcting my behaviour. I wasn't the same as my brothers. I realised what it was like to be brought up in a world that wasn't designed by people like me, for people like me. Throughout time, people like me have been discriminated against, denied opportunity, whipped, beaten, tortured, imprisoned, simply for being left-handed. Hands up who's left-handed. I've never met a right-handed person who's proud to be right-handed, but every left-handed person I've met has been proud to be left-handed. We rock, don't we rock? Yeah? I'm also a Capricorn. And if you read the horoscopes, Capricorns are always the best. Who wouldn't want to be a Capricorn? And the last thing that's important to me is I'm a Saturday child. And a Saturday child works hard for a living. So I'm a left-handed Capricorn Saturday child. I'm invincible. Imagine being a right-handed Taurus Wednesday child. What a nightmare that must be. Do we have one in the room? Yay! So I'm here to talk about the why of inclusion. The theme for this weekend is relevance. So why is it relevant to you as speakers, as coaches, as publishers, whatever your practitioner or trade or profession is? For me, there's a yin, there's a yang, there's a heads, there's a tails. The heads is the right thing to do. The moral standing about including people is the right thing to do. We are all individuals, we are all diverse. The world is diverse by definition. So therefore, being inclusive is the right thing to do. And that's all very well. We can have these talks, we can have the stories from people who explain what it's like to be them. And that's very interesting. We leave the room. Does it change us? Not always. So why should you, as speakers, event organisers, whatever you may be doing, why should you care? For the tails is competitive advantage. Competitive advantage so that you can offer something that's different to your competitors. You're more inclusive. You open your market up to more people. Yes, we want to be narrow and laser focused on our market, but who are we ignoring? Who aren't we considering? Let's explore some of the reasons in a second about what we can be doing to improve that. Is that okay? So as Steve said last night, it's about more business and better business. And I believe that by opening up to think about all people, you will do better business. You will be more relevant and more sustainable. And yes, I did do that slide last night, by the way. So I talk about this continuum of inclusion. It starts off by that feeling of exclusion. You're not welcome. You can't come in here. This is not for you. Then we move on to tolerance. Tolerate. Hands up on what's to be tolerated. What a horrible word. I just about put up with you. Yeah? Ugh. I don't want to be tolerated. We move towards acceptance, which is where people start to value you for who you are. You have skills that add value to the organisation, to whatever you do, to your teams. But what I want to be embraced. When I got my introduction, give a big round of applause, give a big welcome to Joanne. She's going to come and give you this amazing talk this morning. And I come on the stage and I'm fired up and I'm ready to do business. I really want to deliver for you. That's how I want to feel, and I feel the warmth of the audience. Don't you? Do you remember at school? Do you remember PE lessons? I know some of you are quite old, but there's a few youngsters in the room. And there's two teams, isn't there? There's always the captains of the two teams. And they have to pick for netball or basketball or rugby, whatever it is. And the first thing they do is they pick their mates, don't they? Come on, you're on my side, yeah, you're on my side. And they're fighting over the best people. Then it gets down to the sort of next one. Go on, you'll do. Oh, yeah, go on then. Best of the rest. And there's one child left, isn't there? Not very good at sport. Bit of a geek. 2 left feet, 2 right hands, 2 left, just can't do anything right. Oh, miss, do we have to have them on my team? Yes. Oh, get in goal and just don't mess up. How's that child feel? How would you feel? So do we treat people like that in our day-to-day interactions? Do we push people away with a barge pole, or do we embrace all around us? Now, we're an inclusive community as PSA, but we still have our little cliques, our fellows up on this little pedestal over here somewhere, and the associates down here. You could book an audience if you're lucky. Don't come and interrupt us in the bar in case we're having a little private meeting, all right? I've been told. So what does inclusion mean? To me, I said it on the video, it's about how you make people feel. To me, it's about a feeling. It's not a logic. How do I feel? It's about how you treat people. I love a quote from Oprah Winfrey, and she says, I see you, I hear you, and what you say matters to me. Because if I'm listening to you, and your opinion counts, and I do something with that, then I'm going to feel included in that belonging, and I matter. People don't leave organisations because they want promotion or more money. They leave because they just don't feel they matter. They feel that no one cares if they're making a difference. They have no voice. So how do we, as speakers, make our audiences feel? When we coach somebody, what feeling are we leaving them? So think about that. How would you want to be treated? We should never treat people as we want to be treated. We should treat people as they want to be treated. Walk in their shoes. Understand their pain. Understand their lived experience of what it's like to wake up as them every day. I believe the act of inclusion is holistic, active and deliberate. Holistic. I don't believe you could be a bit inclusive. You can't pick and choose. You can't be a bit of a virgin. And you certainly can't be a bit pregnant. So active, if you're not actively including someone, you're not being deliberate about it, I don't believe you're being inclusive. If you just passively say, yes, everyone's welcome, that's putting the responsibility back out there. It's about taking responsibility, being accountable for that active inclusion. I want you to come to me. I value you, I hear you, and I see you. Heard of the term intersectionality? It often gets mixed up with intersectional. But intersectionality is about the interlocking systems of oppression. So the more characteristics you have that are non-majority, the more systems of oppression come into play, and they compound. And privilege and prejudice leads to isms and phobias. So if you're male and you have a prejudice against women and you have power, it exhibits itself in sexism. So we have to understand our privilege. We have to understand what our privilege is. And if we do something about thinking, it's often because we have privilege. So are you white, male, cisgender? Are you not trans? Hetero, able-bodied, you're of a certain class, and maybe Christian or majority sort of non-faith in the UK, then you have privilege. If you're black, you have less privilege. If you're trans, you have a lot less privilege. But if you're black and trans, the chances are you will suffer more discrimination than someone who is just black. So we spend a lot of money talking about unconscious bias. We spend millions and millions and millions on unconscious bias training. It doesn't work. It just teaches us about affinity bias, IKEA phenomenon, all these other things. We can quote it. And it gives us a false sense of security. I like to talk about what it really is. It's unconscious exclusion. You're not welcome, because it's unconscious, I don't know I'm doing it. So what I want you to do is be conscious about your exclusion. I want you to know you're excluding people. Because once you're conscious about it, you can do something with it, you can address it. It may well be you run a leadership program for women. So therefore you're conscious of the fact you're generally excluding men. If that's your business model, that's fine, but you're conscious about why you're doing it. How many people look at the demographics of the people they coach, the people they train, the people they talk to? Do you know how many people are non-white, non-women, non-men? Do we know that? Do we ever ask? Does it matter? Or maybe it does, because if you're not attracting people who are different to you, maybe you have got to change your message or think differently. But what I want you to do is start being conscious about your inclusion. We understand that we're biased, we understand that we're excluding people. Now we can understand how we can change that, how I can go out of my way to make you feel like you have a voice in my world. And then eventually, we become unconscious in our inclusion. It's just the way we are. It's the way we think, the way we believe. It's a part of our psyche. Well, that'd be great. We just treat everybody as people, but rally their differences. When we make decisions in business, in life, I like to challenge, say, who isn't represented around the table? Who doesn't have a voice? Are we putting our disability head on? Are we saying our neurodiversity impact, our vegetarian, our veganism, our meal choices, our gluten-free options? Are we walking the venue, checking for wheelchair access, checking for access for assistance dogs? Or do we just say, oh, it's an accessible venue, it will be okay? And then on the day it isn't. Have a plan B. You can't get everything right every time, but have a plan B and make that person feel valued as an individual and say, it's me, I'll take that, I'll deal with that for you. Much of our bias is based on our perceptions, our life and lived experience, and we assume. I've had conversations this weekend where people have assumed that someone isn't a big speaker, isn't earning a lot of money, and then they got put in their box. Actually, this person is very successful. And that it was one of those conversations because we make assumptions by looking at somebody. So I talk about inclusion by design, right at the very beginning. Thermos spent millions, I'm sure, on product design. Tested it, curated it, did everything. But what I can tell you is this product was designed by right-handed people. This product was tested by right-handed people, and this product was signed off by right-handed people. Because when a left-hander decides to sit in their car and have some soup one day, the spoon folds up. So they've excluded a proportion of their target market by the fact they did invent a left-handed spoon or a neutral hand spoon. Use a right hand, it locks. So are we doing without our products when we design things? Are we not thinking about everybody? And a simple thing like that. Are we thinking about audience interaction? Neurodiversity, personality types, introverts, extroverts. Put your hands up. Not everybody wants to put their hand up. Who wants to ask a question? Not everybody wants to ask a question. Not everybody feels in the way that they're confident enough to do so. So yesterday we saw Kathy use Mentimeter. I use Mentimeter, I use Kahoot, I use Slido, I use a number of tools where you can get audience interaction so they don't have to be uncomfortable sharing themselves with you. How we communicate through our web, through our materials, our Eventbrite, all the ways we communicate with our clients and our prospects. Is that inclusive? Do we expect them to come to our pub? Or are we going to go to their pub and see what they want to drink? So how do they want to communicate? How do they want to communicate better? We're maybe just communicating with a small group of people and forgetting all these other people by choosing a very narrow means of communication. On my website, I have an accessibility icon. There are lots of them out there. This is a WordPress plugin. So I can go in there and people can choose the different text sizes. They can change the fonts, they can change the colors, and they can make it accessible for their needs. I'm sure many web designers and marketing people here will do this already, but if your website doesn't do this, who aren't you including? Who would like to adjust the way your website looks? Language. I've lost count of the number of times people have said, ladies and gentlemen, this weekend. I think we all know we live in a world where there is not just ladies and gentlemen, there are also people who identify as non-binary or choose not to be associated with those two gendered terms. I often also hear people talk about Guys, hey guys, it's been an inclusive term. So let's ask Google who guys are. Google thinks that guys are men. So who decided that guys was an inclusive term? It wasn't women. 5 women walking into a restaurant. Hey ladies, can I get you a table? 4 women and 1 man. Hey guys. So suddenly we masculinise the entire grouping based on the man. So when we're talking about women, we're talking about 2 women. Think of our language. Think of our privilege. If you have male privilege, think about the way you talk. Are you being sexist? Someone said the other day, how do we get more diversity on our panels? It's really difficult to get different sorts of people. My answer was change the organiser. If the football manager keeps losing the games, you get a new manager. If the organiser keeps booking the same people, change the organiser, okay? The people are out there, the speakers are there, the content's there, and in your own consulting or whatever you may do, are you the limiting factor here? Is this where you need to go into your mastermind group and say, how do I get out of my box? How do I think differently? Ask inclusive questions. When you do Eventbrite, when you book it, do you say, do you have any disabilities? Do you have any this? Do you have any that? Why not say something like, what can I do to enhance your enjoyment of this event? A very open, inclusive question. Well, I can say, actually, I like to sit in the front. Actually, I prefer the air conditioning because I don't like getting too hot. Actually, I like a room near the lift. Not by the ice box and the soda machine. But try to think about how we ask the questions. How can they trust you to do something with that? But you've got to do something with it. Now I want to talk about the often forgotten, and I know Ruth here, she's very passionate about, that hearing loss affects 1 in 6. A number of people in this audience, I'm sure, have hearing loss to some extent. As we get older, our hearing does reduce. So I spoke to my friend Lisa the other day. This is what I talk about drinking other people's pubs. If you don't know people who aren't like you, spend some time with people who aren't like you. Not in a crazy stalking sort of way, you're different, can I have a quick chat? But actually befriend people, hang around with different crowds, minx and mingle and talk to different people in the room. Learn to speak Scottish. Learn to speak alcoholic. I mean, some people in here are fluent, me included. So before I wrap up, let me just show you this video I shot with Lisa just the other day before I came here. Morning, PSA. I'm joined by Lisa Bulldog, who is a silent inclusion specialist. So Lisa, say good morning to the PSA.
Hello everybody.
So tell me a bit about yourself.
I have a hearing loss. I wear cochlear implants. They help to stimulate my brain to help me to hear. I've been deaf all my life, really.
So you work in a government department and you often go to conferences and seminars and training courses. So what do you find is your experience when you go to these conferences and seminars?
First off, I find it really tiring and a challenge. And the reason I find it a challenge is because as soon as I go to that conference, I have to prepare and I have to prepare the host. Too often, I get to an event and overshoot, so it's good for me to do groundwork. When I mean groundwork, that means I would ask them, what's the acoustics like? Where's the venue? What's the sound going to be? You know, are you going to be using speakers? Who's talking? Patterns, people wearing patterns, that can be often difficult for someone to be able to constantly lip read. The light needs to be right. If they're standing behind a light, won't be able to lip read you. Too often videos are shown, and therefore I would struggle with general, being able to see what's being said. So subtitles is a must to us. Things like people eating and when they're talking, and really I need to be at the front so I can see what's being said.
Yeah. So in a noisy environment where there's chairs moving or people having their own little private conversations, they can seriously impact your ability to enjoy and get benefit out of an
Almost
event.
definitely. It's very tiring to lip read, as you can see now. I'm watching your lips as you speak. And most person can lip read is only 15 minutes at a time before they get really tired, which is known as depth fatigue. And therefore, too often you find us dropping off. So that's one reason why it's good not to have those distractions, and also to be able to follow what's being said. Often an electronic note taker, which is a laptop, person typing on a laptop, a bit like what they do in court, would really help me feel engaged. So at least then I can participate. I can then actually put my hand up and be included in that conversation.
So we live in a new media world, lots of online stuff. So what would you say to people who are producing blogs and video logs and LinkedIn
It irritates me.
Yeah.
No. If you're going to do them, do consider the impacts of accessibility to all. My ears are silent, obviously. I don't hear. I need to be able to see what you're saying. It would help if someone would give me a general background to what we were talking about, like the agenda, and also really things like being able to do subtitles. But to be honest, I don't touch webinars. They freak me out. So I tend to sort of put that to the side. So you're missing out. 1 in 6 people have a hearing loss. You're missing out on that group of people in the UK and wider, that have got a hearing loss.
And not only that, I think the statistics show that 80% of men watch LinkedIn videos while sat on the toilet with the sound off. So if you're not subtitling, you're not making your videos inclusive for Lisa.
Now I know why that
all the
happens on the
men
loo.
who are sat at the toilet watching this stuff aren't going to engage in your content. So Lisa, before we hang up here, what's your one big tip that our speakers in the audience here can take away from making you, as a person with a hearing loss, feel more included?
Don't make assumptions. E.g., if I was to say to you, I'm deaf, assume that I would need a British Sign Language interpreter. That's not always the answer for everybody. Be kind, be patient, always ask them, and that will make a real difference. Give them the chance to tell you what they need. In inclusion, is really about making that difference to enable people like myself to feel part of that conversation.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Well, that's all from Mini-Me. Now back to Big Me on the stage. See you soon. Bye. So it's the right thing to do. It's competitive advantage. And it's an active and deliberate act. Most importantly, don't be the thermos soup flask. Thank you.